What should you listen to and read in English? I'm Jeff McQuillan from beautiful Los Angeles, California for ESLPOD.com. As I explain in my free special report, 5 Things You Must Know to Improve Your English, see the link below to get it, the best way to improve your English is to listen to and read a lot of interesting, comprehensible or understandable English. Now, what exactly are things that you should look for? What does it mean to be interesting and comprehensible? How does that help you? Well, first, as I just mentioned, your reading and listening needs to be something that you can mostly understand. We know that the key to all language acquisition is comprehension. If you can't understand it, you can't get it into your brain's long-term memory. You must be able to mostly understand the language you are reading or listening to. So, understanding is the key. It's the main thing. Notice I didn't say memorize lists of words, study vocabulary, study grammar rules. No, none of that is what you really need. What you need is to listen and read English that you can mostly understand. If you do that, you will improve your English. I said mostly understand. Well, how much is mostly? How much do you have to understand in order to benefit from, in order to be able to improve your language acquisition? Let me come back to that question in just one moment. I want to talk about the other thing that is important when you are trying to find things to read or listen to, and that is it has to be something that is interesting, something that you want to read. Now, why is interesting so important? It's important that it's interesting because your reading and listening habit has to be sustainable. The word sustainable comes from the verb to sustain, which means to keep going, to be able to continue doing something for a long period of time. It's like a diet. If your diet is so painful, so difficult that you don't want to continue, well, you'll stop using that diet. You will fail. You won't continue eating that way. We would say that diet is not sustainable. So you need to choose things that you want to know about, that you want to read and want to listen to. What do I mean when I say something is mostly comprehensible? To answer that question, we need to talk about the necessary trade-off between interest and comprehension. A trade-off is something that is a compromise. You have to give up one good thing in order to get another good thing. You may want to lose some weight. You may have to do that by stop eating donuts and pizza every day. You love donuts, you love pizza. But if you want to lose weight, you have to give something up. So you have food you really like, less of that, and that will help you have better health. So there's a trade-off between losing weight and eating the things that you may really want to eat. So for intermediate and advanced language learners like you, there are many things that are easy to understand but boring, and other things that are really interesting but are difficult to understand. So there's a trade-off between interest and comprehension. Of course, the perfect material to read or listen to is something that is both interesting and comprehensible. And if you can find that, perfect. That's what you should read or listen to. But that's not always possible. So what do we do about this trade-off between interest and comprehension? Here's what I do. Let's say I have 45 minutes free to work on my French. I usually start with something that's very easy to read. I'll pick up, for example, something that we call graded readers. These are books that are written for people learning a language. So something like this, which is written for people like me that are learning a language. Or it might be a book of readings, and this one is about French culture. So I'll read that because it's pretty easy to read. There are lots of these kinds of books, by the way, in English, of course. Reading something easy to begin with builds my confidence, makes me think, oh, well, my French is okay. However, for me, after about 15 minutes or so, I might start to get a little bored. I want something a little more interesting. So in that case, I'll switch to, or I'll move to something that's harder. It's like a novel written for teenagers, or maybe a magazine or newspaper. One of the novels I'm reading is written for high school kids, young high school kids, in French. Now, I struggle a little with books like this. In other words, there are phrases and words I don't understand. Sometimes I get a little lost, but I'm really interested in the story. I don't worry about understanding every word. If I can get 80–90%, I'm happy. However, as you know, this is difficult, right? Even if you're interested in something, if it's really hard for you, it can be tiring. And after about 20 or 30 minutes, I start to feel a little tired of this difficult text. So what I'll do? I go to something easy. I go back to one of my easier books. In other words, that's how I deal with this trade-off between interest and comprehension. I have several things that are easy, a little more difficult, and difficult. And I'll switch between those things depending on how tired I am. The same is true, by the way, for my listening. I have podcasts and YouTube videos by people who talk slowly and clearly about everyday conversation or cultural topics, very similar to ESLpod.com lessons. Not as good, of course. And since my listening skills are so much weaker than my reading in French, anyway, I usually use the words. That is, I do the auto-translate subtitles on YouTube or the subtitles on Netflix, and that's fine. The main thing is that I can understand it. It's okay to use subtitles and words when you're listening to videos. So to review, comprehension is the key, the most important thing for improving your speaking, your listening, your reading, and your writing. Read and listen to things you can mostly understand. Second, find things that are interesting to you. Don't read it because you think it'll be good for you. Read it because you really want to read it. If you want a huge resource for listening and reading materials, take a look at our Unlimited English membership. Professor Lucy Say and I created these almost 2,000 lessons to be both interesting and comprehensible to people like you. Go to eslpod.com for more information. And if you like this video, please like us and share this video with your friends and family who may also be trying to improve their English. From beautiful Los Angeles, California, I am Jeff McQuillan. Thanks for watching.